Welcome. We here at the Trauma Research Foundation are so happy to have you join us today. Most of us have read the book, The Body Keeps the Score by our founder, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. The Body Keeps the Score teaches us that body-based approaches are highly effective for supporting trauma recovery. And TRF created this program to bring that wisdom to life. With Integrate Mind Body Practice for working through trauma, we have two goals in mind. The first is to spread the word about the variety of somatic therapeutic options available. We want to offer you diverse ideas, hoping that some resonate and take hold. And the second goal is to provide all of us a chance to connect to our bodies and experience the emotional regulation techniques that are taught here at Integrate. We get to practice together and take away a tool that we can use again with ourselves or with others. That's why this program is always free and every body is welcome. If you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, consider subscribing to the TRF channel. It lets the platforms know that this content is valuable and they'll show it to more people. I'm your host, Mary Frangie, and working behind the scenes is the amazing TRF team, Connor McCann, Carrie Cyrus, Liz Coda, Tammy Cassidy, and Laura Babila. We're happy to introduce you today to Kathy Hayes-Bloch, who's bringing us guided visualizations for trauma healing. Kathy is a seasoned psychotherapist who has accompanied many people on their healing journey over the past 20 years. Recognizing the limitations of traditional mindfulness and psychotherapy, she has developed unique guided visualizations that help people who are healing from trauma cultivate an enhanced sense of safety, well-being, and resilience. She enjoys teaching meditation groups and workshops, and she works with individuals and groups in Connecticut and internationally. During her session, we'll practice trauma-informed presence and we'll disable the chat to minimize distractions. We'll have time at the end for a short Q&A, and questions can go in the Q&A box. Kathy, we are really grateful to have you here. Thank you. I hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone who's here today. Um, as Mary let you know, I'm a trauma therapist. I've been doing this work for about over 2 decades. And I am also someone who flunked out of traditional mindfulness, even though I studied meditation for 20 years. I'm someone who can't use an app, and I got pretty depressed after almost every meditation training that I did. So in that, I realized over time that this was a life-changing and career-changing focus for me. So for me, I wanted to develop some guided imagery that would give people with trauma histories an opportunity to have meditation practice and things for healing that were, in my view, more effective. So I'm happy to be here and share those things. I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping before we start. Uh, I am standing on the shoulders of giants. I had a lot of good teachers, including Bessel van der Kolk, along the way, and people that I'm both borrowing and expanding their work from. All of those resources are going to be on the resource page on my website. So if I mention a name really quick or I mention a paper really quick, you don't have to struggle to try to get that information. It's all there for you. And also to practice trauma sensitive practices to let you know what you're getting yourself into today. So our schedule is that I'm going to start with an arriving practice that will last a few minutes. I'm also going to read some poetry. Then we will do a little bit of a longer practice for about 10 minutes. It's called the ideal parent practice. And then finally, we'll do a life path practice and close. And to that end, I also want to mention community agreements. It's really important for you to know, especially if you've had trauma histories where authority figures weren't so good to you, to know that my intention here today is to treat you with compassion and kindness. And I want to do that with everyone who's here, the team that's on the chat, and anyone who's asking things or commenting as we go along here, so that we're all treating each other with self-compassion and respect. So thank you. We're going to start with an arriving practice. So This is a practice where it would be great if you have time, if you have a space that's private, that's where you are. I would also invite you to um, just see if you can relax and listen and let the practice wash over you. There's nothing that you have to do or no way that you have to be in this. You can close your eyes if you'd like. You can keep your eyes open and or you can keep a soft gaze, whatever you know is right for you. So let's start. So allow yourself to close your eyes if that works for you and focus on the ground. Focus on the ground beneath your feet, the contact with the chair or where you're sitting underneath your seat. Notice the support behind your back and feel that sense of ground and support that's always there. And next, I'd invite you to notice sound. If the sound of my voice is useful to you, or you might notice the ambient sound in your space. And often we can consider sound an interruption to practice, but see what it's like for you here to be curious about sound being a way in. Just using your senses. And now I'd invite you to notice breath, the breath as it is. If it serves you to take a deeper breath, feel free to do that, but you can just simply notice the breath. If you're here on the planet, the breath is working. And now I'd invite you to notice the body. And if it serves you here, see what it's like to put a hand on the heart, hand on the belly, and use your imagination to imagine the heart communicating care and compassion. Imagine the hand on the belly communicating support. And know that throughout our time together today, you can always come back to sound, breath, ground, or the body. And now I invite you to use some imagination to set an intention for your practice today. And imagine getting what you need. Your intention may be deeply personal. It might be an intention for our community here today or the wider world. There's no absolutely perfect intention. Just noticing what's right for you right now. And see what it's like to hold this experience, but get ready to come back to conversational space. And as you come back, I invite you to share your before and after, what you noticed as you came in, what you've noticed after this short practice. Just a few words would be great. What I noticed for me is I was excited, nervous when I came in, and I'm settled and ready to go with the rest of the program as I'm here now. Thank you for all the hearts that are popping up around the, the chat. And if you want to share one or two words about your experience, we can do that. Lighter, peace, calm, regulation, calm and ready. Someone was crying. It's normal and natural for strong feelings to come up when you enter into these kind of practices. Thank you for your candor. Grounded, settled, spaciousness. Wow. Feeling settled in, loved, relaxed, relaxed and safe, chill. Somebody mentioned yawning. If you are relaxed and you come into this and you're tired, you're going to yawn. So feel free to rest in the practice. More focused. Great. I would love to read every single comment that's coming, so know that I'm holding that, whether I read it or not. And I want to give you an opportunity here. I like to use poetry as a way to kind of enter into the deeper practices. So I'm gonna also, now that we've done an introductory practice, read a poem, and all of the poetry again is on the resource page of my website. But the poem is called The Way It Is, and it's by a poet named Lynn Unger. One morning you might wake up to realize that the knot in your stomach has loosened itself and slipped away. And the pit of the unfilled longing in your heart has gradually and without you really noticing been filled in, patched like a pothole, not quite the same as it was, but good enough. And in that moment, it might occur to you that your life, though not the way you planned it, and maybe not even entirely the way you wanted it, is nonetheless persistently, abundantly, miraculously, exactly what it is. Okay. So I want to welcome you into our next practice together. This is a practice based on Dan Brown is a longtime mentor and teacher of mine. He wrote a book called Treating Attachment Disturbances in Adults. And you might hear a little bit of a shake in my voice. I miss him very much. And this is work that I learned from him. So I invite you to be in the practice. This is called the Ideal Parent Protocol in clinical terms. It's also something that I've expanded. The practice asks you to imagine ideal parent figures, not your family of origin, helping you move through your lifetime. And what we found in the research is with that practice, if you do it repeatedly over time, it's something that can change your attachment patterns in your real life. So it really does help to heal trauma. The way that I've expanded it also is sometimes for people, just the word parent can be enough to send you into a tizzy and not want to do a meditation. So if the word parent doesn't work for you, I'd invite you to use the word benefactor. So you can really use your imagination in a very expansive way here. Imagine your favorite person who you've read about in a book. You can use a celebrity that you respect and honor. You can use a spiritual deity that is important to you. So these are just ideas. You may already have an idea that you would like to use as an ideal parent or a benefactor. So I invite you to bring in your imagination. One of the things I know about people with trauma histories is they have a good use of imagination. So we're going to use your strengths here to move forward in a good way. This also is a practice that can be evocative emotionally. If you're having strong feelings, that can be par for the course. Just feel free to follow along as best you can. So allow yourself to settle in, remembering those touchstones of breath, body, ground, sound, and see what it's like for you here to use your imagination to discover new possibilities. And imagine ideal parents Ideal parents that are not your family of origin. They're ideal parents that are uniquely suited to you. And imagine them here now with you. They're your benefactors, benefactors that have always been there, that have been on this path and that are more healed. And imagine how they're with you, providing safety and security. They're so attuned to you, so especially suited to you, that you feel safe and secure. And give yourself the opportunity here to trust your imagination and shape and reshape the experience until it's exactly right. Shaping and reshaping the experience, noticing the sense of safety and security that you experience. And see what it's like for you here to notice how that makes you feel. Noticing that sense of safety and security. And see how they're being with you that creates that helps you hold on to it. And see what it's like to be curious about that sense of safety and security. And trusting yourself here that you can get to it in a way that's right for you. And shape and reshape the experience. And as you're there now, see what it's like to notice how fiercely protective they are of you. They're protective and safe. They're protective without being overly protective. They really have your best interests at heart. They're encouraging, never critical. And allowing yourself to take in that experience and noticing how it feels for you. Notice how this experience of safety and security is right for you. Allow that experience to fill your senses. Notice the sights and sounds around you, but particularly notice how these ideal parent figures, how these benefactors are with you. Feel free to shape and shape the scene, trusting that you will find the experience that you need. Shaping and shaping the scene, reshaping the scene until it's exactly right. And as you're there now, see what it's like to notice how absolutely attuned these benefactors, these ideal parents are to you. They want and do know everything that you need. They're very curious and interested in your experience. They want to know everything about you. They're so tuned in that they know right away what you need. They're curious and open. Allowing yourself now to take that experience in deeply. Let it fill your senses. They're interested in everything about you. And notice how that experience impacts you here. Notice if it shapes or changes your well-being. And again, if strong feelings come up here, those are just ways for you to know yourself. It's nothing to worry about. Know where to go, know where to be, just being here in the ideal parent experience. And these ideal parents, these benefactors, are delighted with you. And they're not subtle about it. They're open and expressive, delighted in your experience, in what you're learning, in how you are. And they're not subtle. They're openly expressive. And you can feel their delight. And you may even notice that as you feel this delight, you feel more buoyant, happier. See yourself taking in that experience. They're delighted not just in what you do, but just in you being yourself. And give yourself the opportunity to shape and reshape the scene, trusting your experience, that you can reshape and reshape this until you get it just feeling that expressed, open delight in you. And they have this experience of you throughout your development, right up until this moment today. So give yourself a moment here to allow this experience to fill your senses. Hold the experience. And as you do, see what it's like to bring that experience with you. And now imagine yourself on the path. But this time, you're the ideal parent. You're the ideal parent bringing that love, attunement, security, and open, expressed delight to a young child. And if you don't have a young child in your life, imagine bringing that experience into your relationships. And your relationships with people that you really care about. In relationships with people that maybe you have a little conflict with. Imagine being that benefactor, having that expansive capacity for love that you bring into all of your relationships. And feeling what it's like to extend that Notice how that capacity helps you feel, allowing yourself to bring that or imagine bringing that to the wider community. It might be our community here online. It might be your community wherever you are, or to the broader world. Imagine bringing that love, attention, and security to people that you don't know very well. Maybe to people that you don't notice. Imagine here in this time together, bringing it to the people that perhaps don't talk on the chat, that you don't notice, or to the people who might be watching this at a later date. Bringing open, loving awareness with safety and security. Because you have it inside of you. Allowing yourself now to hold the experience. If you want to, you can stay with this. You can go back to breath, sound, or body. And see what it's like for you to hold the experience, but get ready to come back to the Zoom to shift out of it. But you can hold whatever part of this is most beneficial for you as we end this practice. And allow yourself to come back. Let this settle. It's gentle work, it's tender work. Take care of yourself here. And you reminded me, Mary, but I don't remember if we're going to take some comments here. I don't think so. So, thank you for participating in that. And what I found the first time I did this practice, and this may not be the first time for you, was that I got better at it as I did it repeatedly. So one of the nice things about TRF is that this training will be available for you online as well if you want to try it again. So give yourself, we've been sitting for a moment here, give yourself a moment to take care of your body. If you need to move around, you need to change your seat. And now I'd invite you to enter into another visualization about your life path and how to bring some of this work forward. So give yourself an opportunity to settle. Close your eyes if that's right for you. Keep your eyes open if that's a better way to settle. Noticing again your senses of breath, sound, body, ground. And see what it's like for you here. The invitation is to settle in and and develop, see if you can cultivate an observer who can see all of your experience. And from this position of the observer, see what it's like to notice your life path from birth to this present moment. Noticing all of your experience and with high speed awareness, seeing yourself from birth to this moment, seeing the experiences that you've had, the successes that you've had, the things that didn't work out that you're disappointed about, the things that were difficult for you, the joys and the happiness that you've experienced. And as you see that experience, notice that you start to see a through line. Just like a sculptor carving at stone, you start to see the shape of a through line. And as that through line is more and more developed, you start to see a sense of purpose, a healed sense of purpose that will allow you to move forward. That allows you to move forward in a way that's right for you. That helps you see everything that's brought you to this moment, including practicing today. And that defining sense of purpose can help you live in the ways that are right for you, to help you see the things that are really important, help you define the ways you want to move around in the world. And as you do, you feel a sense of inner strength, calm. You find yourself feeling more settled, moving forward. And as you're there now, see what it's like for you to notice your experience right now. Again, your before and after. The things about these visualizations that may have worked for you. The things about the visualizations that may not have touched you. And see what it's like again on this sense of your life, on your sense of purpose to shape and reshape the experience. To trust yourself here. Knowing that you can come back to this on the recording. Or you can come back to the important experiences that you know from this. And as you're there now, we're going to include some embodied practice with this. See what it's like for you here to notice your length. Your length is from the top of your head down your spinal column to your feet. And as you notice your length, see what it's like to touch into a sense of dignity, a sense of dignity that's just there. And now I'd invite you to touch into your width. Your width is from ear to ear, shoulder to shoulder. And as you touch into your width, see what it's like to notice where your boundaries are the most comfortable. Sometimes you feel like you can be really expansive on the outside edges of your width. Other times you might want that to be a little bit more curled in and personalized. See what it's like to touch into your width and notice where your boundaries might need to be. And now I'd invite you to touch into your depth. Your depth is from the front of your face to the back of your head, front of your chest, the back body. And as you touch in to your depth, see what it's like to notice the things that you want to leave behind and the things that you want to bring forward from this time. And I invite you to get ready to come back to a conversational space. Coming back on the screen, knowing that you can come back to this at any time. Okay. So if anyone wants to take a deeper dive on the research of any of that, it's in the, some of that comes from David Trelevan's work on trauma-sensitive mindfulness. The bulk of the attachment work is from Dan Brown. So you'll find those resources on my website. So with that, and as I think the chat is opening. So if there's any things that you want to say, but before that, I forgot that I find ways to fit in poetry at every moment in time. So poetry does help us be more expansive. So we're going to read another poem, and I think it supports the work. And this is a poem again. All of these poets are on the books are on my website on the resource page. And this is a poem called A Great Wild Goodness. And this is from Annie Lightheart. One morning, I was looking out the window when a great wild goodness came over me. I wanted to be kind to everything. I promised not to kill the big spider on the wall. In the cold, I took the dog for a long walk. She'd been wanting it. I fetched a trash can lid for the ornery neighbor and did not just then add a single adjective to his name. I went back inside to the laundry and the dishes with a clean heart such as I never had. Before dinner, the wild goodness shouted, "Too tame, too tame." So I went out without my coat and shouted poems up to the stars until my children came home with their small, warm hands. Then we ate bread in the kitchen, unafraid to be happy. The stars in wild darkness were right over our heads. So here we are. There is lots of comments here. Thank you. Okay. This is very powerful. I'm touched by some of the comments. People are saying, unafraid to be happy. Brilliant for today. Makes compassion your companion. Compassion's always there. People like the poetry. Oh, someone said, unafraid to be happy. Thank you for your openness, your open hearts. Okay, someone asked, would you recommend trying to write poetry? If I was with all of you, I think writing is a great resource. I think writing poetry, if that speaks to you, is a good resource. Um, I also, when I work with groups that I know a little bit better, I try to gear the poetry to what we're doing, and I try to use poets from all different parts of the world. Um, so. I'd invite you to play with this is really, I think about Leisha's work and how playful it is, and I hope that while this is powerful, it's also something that you can play with.
We have several questions.
Okay.
I'm gonna start. Lotta brings up a question that several people have upvoted, saying, I cannot imagine ideal parents. I do not feel worthy. And not only it's not only about ideal parents, but it's hard to imagine such a connection with any living being. Is there a way to ease into that?
Thank you so much for your question, and thank you for being vulnerable enough to ask that question. Um, I have used this also with people with their pets. I mean, ideally, if you're using this, if you're working with a therapist, you can really tailor this to your experience, and that can be a way in. This is not kind of this static thing that you just do the way I did it today. It's something that's highly flexible. So you could try, these are just ideas off the top of my head. They may or may not work for you. I've had people use their pets as benefactors or the experience of someone is saying here that they used ideal sponsors. I mean, so there's lots of ways to ease in, and it might be that for now you use the meditation without trying to come up with the people, but use your sensation of love or your sensation of security or what you might imagine that. So this is unfortunately, given our system here, I can't tailor it, but it's something that you could tailor certainly with a therapist or somebody who works like this, and that might feel better. Now, the other thought I have is you could also try to make a recording based on this for yourself and really tailor it. If you don't have safety with a lot of other people, and that's true for a lot of people that are trauma survivors, you can really tailor it to use it for yourself first and then bridge it to people as you go along.
That's great. Aaron is asking, and there were a lot of questions, just so you know, related to the parents and should I do it if I'm triggered and how do I handle this with clients? But I think you've covered that by giving these other ideal options. Aaron is asking, does the attachment refer to the ideal parent visualization?
Yes. I'm not sure I understand. Yes, it does. Attachment refers to the ideal parent visualization. No.
Okay. And Katie's asking, is it usual or typical for clients to want to move or stretch or walk while listening to these visualizations? She she mentions having ADHD and to bear that in mind.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. And yes, you can, this is not meant to be static. It is meant to really tailor it for you. So if you have ADD, if it's hard to sit, sure, listen to it on a walk, move around. If we were all on retreat together, which would be my fantasy, we would we'd do this where you could walk, where you could lie down, and if you were having strong emotions, I'd be able to help you through that. We don't have that, but you know yourself, and you can provide that for yourself as you're moving through the practices.
Well, to expand that question a bit, are these visualizations helpful for people who are neurodivergent?
They can be. Where I think it can be harder to use the visualizations is if you have trouble with metaphor. If you just can't kind of use metaphor, use imagination, if some of the neurodivergences that you know about yourself is that you have a very linear way of thinking, then this might be harder to use. And,
Okay.
and and I think one of the things in psychotherapy that's really important to remember is not everything works for everybody. And that doesn't mean that there's a problem in the person trying to utilize it. It means that we need to come up with other things for people when that happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Kathy, can anyone use these visualizations to guide others, or do you need to be a trained therapist?
My bias is that you need to be a trained therapist. One of the rules of thumb with visualizations, as I've learned them, is that, if you're not qualified to treat attachment disorders without visualization, you're probably not qualified to treat them with them. So my intention here is that people use this for their own healing. If there are therapists that are interested in training and resources, those are things we can certainly share over time. But there is training on the ideal parent protocol. And there is that book that I keep talking about too. Yeah.
No, thank you, Kathy. Erin, who asked the question earlier
Mhm.
about attachment having to do with the ideal parent, she wants to clarify. What does attachment have to do with ideal parents? Being attached to them, being detached, etc.
Um, Attachment helps you, it informs your relationships. So your early attachment patterns, particularly for people with trauma, usually get disrupted. And for most of us, we know that trauma is in the room all the time when you meditate, when you're on a Zoom call. And so the attachment is not necessarily just being attached to the ideal parent figures, but noticing how what happens when you cultivate safety in proximity to another person. So the ideal parents have to be figures that can help you with that. Hope that answers your question. So it's not about necessarily the attachment per se, and you can shape and reshape the experience so that if you need space or distance, you can have distance. If you want physical proximity or closeness or a hug, you can shape it that way. If that's too much for you, then you don't do it that way. So it's really the choice is yours. And what I've found over time is that people with trauma histories can utilize this really well.
Great. Jesse is asking, what's your stance on self-disclosure with your clients?
Um, I self-disclose. I mean, I was way early in my career. I was trained analytically, and that tends to be being fairly neutral. I do use self-disclosure. What I try to do though is have the self-disclosure have a point. I think it can be problematic if a therapist is talking about themselves to the extent that it negatively impacts the therapy. But if I've certainly said to people, just like I did today, I flunked out of mindfulness because I don't think I'm the only person that flunked out of mindfulness. It's a common experience. So I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but I do try to do self-disclosure in a way that is helpful to move the process forward.
Great. I want to read a comment that Sophie made. Um, she's talking about during the ideal parent exercise that it really helped her to humanize her parents and to realize how unrealistic that ambition would be. It helped me be more empathetic and welcoming of my own imperfect parents. If they would exist, my ideal parents would likely be devoid of fault and probably more harmful than healthy.
Yep. Yep. Because sometimes when you've been hurt when you've been younger, you want perfection, right? Which is completely understandable. But I've found that to myself, and this is a self-disclosure example, um, that it really help. Now, it doesn't do this for everybody, and for some people, they've had experiences where they can't and won't and don't soften, and they still get better. But what I found in my experience that it helped me soften about my parents too.
Yeah. And Jessie says that she finds that there's no greater validation than self-disclosure. So thanks for sharing your perspective. It was very validating. Um, Anna's asking, she says visualization of the self parents can be very triggering. So do you explore triggers before starting the visualization?
I do. And again, if you're feeling, and somebody asked a version of this question before, I don't think I got quite to what you can do if that happens. Um, I do explore triggers for people, and we usually kind of talk. That's why we started with the arriving practice with breath, sound, body, because those are things you can come back to at any time. So you can use those things to go back. And then if you're working with someone individually who knows this work, they can really tailor it so that on one hand, you're not highly triggered after every single time you're doing this, but you can work with your triggers, or you can also decide, okay, if this is too much for me right now, I'm not going to work with my triggers. I'm going to do something else.
Thomas and Jessica have kind of similar questions. Thomas is asking, how can I find more training on guided visualization? Would this be helpful for individuals dealing with PTSD and substance use disorders? And Jessica is saying, I liked being asked to be aware of width, length, depth. How do you call these visualization exercises? And are there other resources about them?
The attachment protocol people are trained in, you'll find it's called the ideal parent protocol. If you, because I was doing my homework for this talk, if you Google that, you'll find clinicians. I'm also going to be offering some, not, don't want to sell this from here, but I am also going to be offering some trainings in January. So feel free to check back on the website. It's not posted now, but that's something that we can do together. The other place where they do this kind of work, and this is not something that some people have reactions to the word hypnosis, but there's the American Society for Clinical Hypnosis, and some of those folks also, and those are all clinicians. The people that are on that website are not clinicians, are all clinicians and trained as therapists. So that's also another resource.
Great. Ellen's saying the Dan Brown book and some of the resources look amazing, but they're geared towards professionals. Do you have any recommendations for non-professionals, people just on their own healing journey?
I think that's where the recordings would be good. So I'm gonna send you back to the Trauma Research Foundation for this recording. Um, I I think there is a dearth of books and resources for people that want to use this on their own, to be honest. There are people that do guided meditations. But you'd have to, what I would suggest is that you really read it first, look through it first, listen to it first before you let your guard down and and go into it. But they're harder to find. So.
Okay. We have a few minutes left, and there's a couple more questions. A few have been about skeptical clients. How do you get buy-in from folks that either can't do, won't do, are skeptical about visualization or mindfulness? How do you position their utility to their healing over time? Katie's asking this question.
Okay. Um, I don't teach a lot of mindfulness. I'll teach mindfulness in this bigger context with visualizations. So I just want to be clear about that. Um, it's hard to get around. I mean, there's sometimes people, just don't want to do it. So as a therapist, I mean, I'm trained in other things as well. So sometimes you might have to work with people with CBT, or you might have to work with people. with more embodied practices like somatic experiencing, or I think also, honestly, I've had a lot of people where I've recommended that they read The Body Keeps a Score.
Mhm.
Um, so that they can kind of expand their net. And I also think that sometimes, just like any of us who have experienced trauma, we have to let the trust in the relationship build. And the other thing that I do is I do a lot of education, and I share articles and I share statistics and I share that stuff so that people feel like you're not a crazy person asking them to do something that's way out of their experience. I think over time that gets easier. And I will, I think the other thing is, I think my practice at this point kind of self-selects out people that know that I do this, that really don't want to do it, probably don't come to see me. So
Do you ever feel the need to address the internal saboteur type?
absolutely. Thank you for the question.
Richard,
Yes. The
Richard
internal
asked that question.
saboteur is there. Thank you. And it's kind of like, and that dovetails onto some of Richard Swartz's work on parts work, so the other thing you can do is say the skeptic can be there. The skeptic can be there and you can do this. The saboteur that's trying to protect you from doing anything that's outside of your experience is trying to protect you. So you can ask them to be there, take a step back, and continue the visualization.
All right, two more, hopefully quick questions. Has it ever happened that your client is visualizing you as the ideal parent? And do you have any thoughts on that? Is it beneficial for the client?
I think it is beneficial. I mean, I think that especially if you've worked with somebody for a long time and they don't have, you might be as a therapist the first person that ever listened to them clearly. And I think that's okay. I think a lot of times longer term work can feel a little bit like reparenting. So if they're using it in it's a way that's useful for them, I really trust, you know, my patients that whatever they're visualizing is what's working for them.
And a final question, can the ideal parenting visualization be used with children in any way, or is it really meant for adults?
It's meant for adults. I think it could be really, even with kids are being, unfortunately, sometimes when you work with children, you're working with kids that are absolutely being traumatized while you're working with them, or it's very close to home for them. They have so much little control over what they're walking into at that time. I don't think it's useful. And they also can need, they need to hold on to any sense of goodness about their parents while they're in that circumstance if it's traumatizing. So I wouldn't use it with kids.
That makes sense. Kathy, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful session, and we're so appreciative of your time. Thanks to everyone who participated and asked questions. You'll find the replay on the Trauma Research Foundation YouTube channel or in the Somatic Library. Just visit our website. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye bye.